Sometimes they are bought on impulse. Sometimes they are bought after consideration. But for most of us, choosing a first luxury watch is a big task. Now, someone who is new to the hobby may come to a platform like this and gravitate towards a certain brand. Maybe influencers will help their decisions. Maybe reviews help the process too, but who are we kidding? There are so many options to choose from, so many brands, styles, complications. It is very daunting, especially for the first-time buyer. And this process should not be taken lightly. Why? Well, decisions in this game are important. These are seriously expensive items. The right decision will see you wearing a watch that will outlast you and the next 4 generations. The wrong decision could see you possibly falling out of love with it, selling it for a loss, yes, learning a few lessons along the way, but time is everything with this hobby. If you can take one piece of advice away from this video that I've learned over the last few years, which has been invaluable, it's about taking your time. Don't rush into it. A year ago, I made a video addressing this concept of choosing your next watch, and really tried to categorize how someone in our hobby could go into buying a watch running through a step-by-step process. It may be beneficial for you, and I'll link it in the corner of the screen now, but essentially it was built to focus your attention on the type of watch person you are, the style, the brand, and the value of the piece. All of these factors are important, but what is more important is substantiating your answer with why for each category. I do highly recommend you watch the video if you would like a different perspective on the subject. But this series is going to focus on my journey, and it might be different to most because I run a channel based on design and watch design. They are all terrific objects, and writing about them does impact your perspective. So in a way, you could all consider this process to be an experiment. For someone who supposedly has good taste in styling, design, details, he should be able to pick a terrific watch, right? Well, your guess is as good as mine. But in a way, through this experience of sharing my thoughts and opinions on watches that I have been considering, you might see where the process takes me and how my decision is finally justified. Ultimately, I want this watch to be unique, have a great story behind it, have a great name assigned to it, a workhorse movement, a comfortable size, simple but complicated in appearance. A watch that isn't polarizing for my tastes, and something that is humble. See, in reality, I am really drawn to the idea of a one-watch collection. It is nirvana for many in our community, and one of the best quotes that I like to use is one from Einstein. "A quiet and modest life brings more joy than a pursuit of success with constant unrest." Translating that into our watch hobby, one watch, one that truly fulfills your needs and desires, will ultimately bring you more joy than the continual hunt for more. A simple statement, one watch that does it all. Wishful thinking. Lengthy opening statement out of the way, let's get into the watches. Of all the brands, 3 stand out to me: Rolex, Omega, and Tudor. The reason why is because they are discussed the most on this platform and my channel. They simply appeal to me the most, and looking at the big picture, they all offer immense value, with a few exceptions. So that's my starting point, a high-quality sports watch made by either Rolex, Omega, or Tudor. First brand, Rolex. Here is what I have been considering. The 39mm Explorer, reference 214270. The 36mm Explorer, reference 14270, or the 114270. The 5-digit Submariner, reference 14060. The Oyster Perpetual 39, either in black or white, reference 114300. Or the Oyster Perpetual 34 in olive, reference 114200. Why these watches? None of them have a date complication, which appeals to me greatly. Their designs are extremely utilitarian, no real flash. They are understated but refined. Of all the watches in the line, the Explorers appeal to me the most. They are watches that manage to give you just enough. In their simplicity, you are left to appreciate what you are given. As an everyday wearing watch, they are understated, simple, and well-sized. There are more than enough reasons to choose one of these, and that is why they are on top of my list. The Submariner, a watch that brought me into the hobby, is a favorite for most of us. It's iconic, simple, timeless. The size, especially of the 5-digit references, many of us believe has a mystical property behind it, the gold standard of proportions. And this scaled down size without a super case is so much more wearable, for me at least. It is there when you want it, but disappears when you don't. The Oyster Perpetuals, they are the epitome of the Rolex brand, and the new 39mm pieces are things of beauty. The simple monochromatic color schemes with clear and precise batons. As a watch to really state that you are wearing a Rolex, there are few out there that does it as well as these, in a very subdued way. The color scheme of the 34mm reference is also very refreshing, and a more fun-looking piece overall. But here are the issues I have with them. These watches are not unique. Not that that is a bad thing, but the luster, the magic of owning the brand isn't as strong as I would like it. Now yes, we should buy what we like, but for someone like me, who does talk about them often, it feels like a bit of a cliche. Maybe even too easy to own one at this point. That doesn't completely eliminate the brand though. The Explorer is still at the top of my list, but then it's down to the price relative to what you are getting. These watches to me feel inflated for what they are when it comes down to price. I won't mention the numbers here, but a simple, no-date, time-only reference is very expensive. Nothing wrong with that either. They hold their value. But for what I am wanting to pay, I would have to dig deeper. So initial thoughts, the watches are well sized, balanced and simple, but at this point don't feel unique and are a bit more expensive, more than I would like to spend. Next, Omega. And here we have an interesting selection. The Speedmaster Professional, the Seamaster 300, the Seamaster Professional 300, the Seamaster Planet Ocean 600 in 39.5mm, and the Seamaster Aquaterra. These are all of Omega's top-of-the-line sports pieces. Some manage to convey Omega's design language better than others, which we will explore briefly. Let's start with a fan favorite, the Speedmaster. It's an excellent watch because of its history and background. The design at this point, barring the Rodania geometer, is wholly unique. Terrific contrast between the plots. Also, no date complication, manual wind, huge bonus. It's an enthusiast's watch. For the price and what is on offer, this piece is definitely shortlisted. Two of the models that appeal to me the most is the first Omega in space and the Speedmaster Mark II. Next, the Seamaster 300M, a modern take on a more classic design of the Seamaster Diver. This piece is very enticing. Excellent use of balance, numerals, handset. Of all the models on offer, these 300-meter references scream Omega the most. The design of the dial is truly original to the brand, and that is a big plus. Really enjoy the blend of sharp batons, symmetry and numerals on the quarters. On top of that, it is unique in the sphere of diving sports watches. Another top contender, may even be the biggest contender of the lot. The Seamaster Professional, a watch that has been discussed often enough on this channel. When we talk about value for money, this watch is a big surprise. A great reimagining of the original 90s references with all of the modern components. Of all the pieces in the lineup, the Great White is the model that speaks to me the most. Since I grew up during the Brosnan era, these models managed to pull at my heartstrings. And like the Speedmaster, it's a knockout for what you're paying. The Planet Ocean is a watch that could be worn into a war zone. Rugged, tough, reliable. It's a model that I have never paid attention to, but the 39.5mm reference is a very interesting combination of elements. Small in scale, but still keeps all of those important Seamaster aesthetics. There is something about the use of numerals on the dial, calling back to the original Seamasters, even the original Ministry of Defense designed pieces, that is exciting. This blend of modern and old school motifs makes it another character of the Omega brand. The Aquaterra, the simplest watch in the lineup, but one that might also be the most effective. It's charming, basic, and at this point really manages to highlight the Omega name with the use of its hands and dial, case and lug form. It falls in line with the Explorer references from the Rolex family, but manages to share an equal part of sport and dress in the way that it is built. This is also a contender on the list. The issues with Omega. Yes, they offer immense value for money, superb build quality, there is no arguing there, but for my tastes there are a few detractors. The coaxial movement used with these watches, with the added clear casebacks, makes them wear tall, and a watch that pushes the boundary beyond 10mm doesn't really suit me. Another issue is size. Compared to what Rolex offers, the larger proportions of these pieces would not visually work as well on my wrist. The size of the watch head relative to the bracelet width is such an important aspect for me. I want the watch to wear small but feel like it has a great presence. Whether that is 39.5, 41, 42, 43, the watches would either feel too big or wear top heavy. And yes, I have tried on these pieces before. The bracelets on these pieces also don't have a graceful taper, which again, in my opinion, adds to their visual heaviness. This will affect my daily wearing of the piece because the watch needs to be discreet when I'm wearing it. Saying all of that though, of all the brands, Omega appeals to me the most. Their watches are original, their movements are fantastic. They offer details like articulating end links, a simple and effective micro-adjust system. It is a brand that really cares for its customers, and every box and piece of material tells you so. My grandparents wore Omega, so there is a family tie to the name as well. Pros: terrific, original, great value for money. Cons: generally too large in diameter and too thick, impacting wearing experience. Finally, Tudor watches. Their pieces really offer some of the best value for money in this group. We could say, compared to the above, they are considered entry luxury. Expensive, but not too expensive. They are well sized, simple, understated, and the vintage charm of these watches do appeal to me. I also adore the fact that the movements of these pieces are now in-house, so there is serious value on that front. So, Tudor Black Bay 58, Tudor Black Bay GMT, and the Black Bay 36. It's a small selection, but these are the watches I would be interested in. The 58 is also one of the top contenders because of its size, its lack of date. It's simple enough to be a watch that could be worn every day, without much thought put into it. There are great vintage callbacks with this model, like a gilt dial, a matte finish, riveted bracelets. And the same goes with the Black Bay GMT, but even more so. The watch is very unique, and with the GMT complication and the use of those stunning red and blue colors, it looks so exciting. Both of these watches have become so popular for a reason. The Black Bay 36 is small, unpretentious, and lines up with the Aquaterra and the Explorer. The question is asking whether or not it is too simple. But my issues with Tudor: when offered with a choice to choose between Tudor or Rolex, I'd take Rolex. If offered the same choice between Tudor and Omega, I would take Omega. Even though the brand is now independent for the most part, the designs of the watches are too Rolex-inspired for my tastes. It's also that element of entry-level luxury that doesn't appeal to me. I would rather spend more and get myself into the seat of something on a higher echelon. Buy once, cry once. The size and proportions of these pieces are superb, but the case thickness wears too tall for me. The only real exception is the Black Bay 36. I also feel that the watches are a bit too generic at this point in time. There needs to be more inspiration behind the design to hook me. Yes, the value is there. Yes, you are getting a terrific watch for the money, but in my head, it's never been a brand that I have really been drawn to, especially considering the two former brands. In a nutshell then, the watch that I am looking for is one that is unique to the family that made it. It needs to have a great story, an excellent amount of wrist presence, but not overbearing. Subtle, understated and refined, but not ostentatious. A top-of-the-line movement that could last me forever. But here is the core detail that is the hardest to satisfy. The watch needs to have character and needs to have an X factor, an element to it that pushes it away from the generic camp and turns it into something wholly original and unique. As someone who loves design, loves narrative, a bit of history, and strives to deviate from the beaten track when analyzing these watches, the watch that I choose needs to have substance. That's quite a tall order, and you can imagine the pressure that I put on this subject. But deliberating ideas like this is what has really helped me delve deeper into my obsession, rationalizing why and why not the watch appeals to me. In the end, it's more money than I have ever spent on anything in one purchase, and it needs to be worth it. Stay tuned for part 2.